been developing, during the interview process. What was your genesis? What made you start on this journey, on this path? And I've heard the name Black Manosphere, and every time I hear that, it's usually attributed to 4 specific names, yours being one of them. So what was the genesis that made you say, I have to do this for men?
Yeah, 10 years ago, and it's like, wow, I can't believe time flew that fast. But 10 years ago in 2015, I was like, I got tired of the way things were always discussed with Black men in the media, both white and Black. And I referred to it on the Black side. I referred to it as the Black vagina vision media. So, Oprah and Essence and Madame Noir. And it was always discussed in a way that was very kind of, it was always like Black men were always like put in a box. And I got tired of it. I just decided one day I'm going to do something about it. Excuse me. I had a Dell laptop. Matter of fact, it's over there. It's around here somewhere. I had a Dell laptop, and I went in my bathroom because it was, it reminds me of a sound booth.
Sure.
So I went in there. It wouldn't have any echoes, anything like that. And I got me a real cheap Logitech headset. Mine was like $20 or something like that. And I did my very first podcast on June 2nd, 2015. And it was like 10 minutes on YouTube. And I never looked back.
Okay.
And that's what did it. I didn't know Angry Man and O'Shea Duke Jackson at the time. We didn't know each other, but they independently of me all started doing their thing as well. And then we kind of coalesced later on that year. And we kind of formed up informally what will become known as the Black Manosphere. Angry Man was the one that kind of came up with the name, the Black Manosphere. So it kind of stuck, and that's how it kind of went.
Gotcha. Now, one thing that I just want to explore, because I hear it said so often, would you say when you started, it was a response to the propaganda, so to speak?
Very much so. Yeah, it was definitely a response to a lot of propaganda. Like I said, Oprah and Madame Noir and Clutch magazine and the Derek Jackson types. I mean, it was very much a response to all of that. So yeah, very much so.
Do you think that's a machine, or do you think it was like those Black women specifically that were carrying on the negative stereotype of Black men?
Oh, are you kidding me? It's a multi-billion-dollar business. The Black love. Matter of fact, I call it in my books. Wait a minute, I have my books over here.
Yeah, I have it over there. I'll grab mine.
Yeah, I got my books over here. Let me do the shameless plug. So yeah, they I call it the Black love machine, and I got started right here on here. This one, as you can see, it's a pretty thick book. This is like a Jason Bourne book. You can double as a weapon if you want. You can block a bullet. So yeah, it all got started here, and I followed it up with my second book for the lovely ladies here, and then I continued it with my most recent book, which came out last fall, the day after Election Day. Here, The Black Man's Guide to Modern Black Feminism. Toxic Femininity is the name of the title.
Okay. So
yeah, that's how it all got started. And it's definitely a business. Oprah Winfrey is like a billionaire. She's like 3 billion, something like that.
Yeah.
And, Derek Jackson, he made a shit ton of money before he screwed it up because he couldn't keep
his name.
And all the rest of it. And Ace Metaphor is a multi-millionaire. So I just got tired of Black men being maligned and always being sandbagged and sidetracked and not having our own side of the story being put out there. So that's the reason why I got into podcasting and eventually got into book writing. So
gotcha. Okay, understood. Let me, and I have a question I have to get to, but this just popped in my head. The propaganda, what's said, do you think any of it has any merit?
If you want to say to me that there are Black men who, can't be faithful, or Black men who treat women badly, or Black men who fill in the blank, fine.
Okay.
The problem was that there was never any balance in it. You never heard from Black men who had, came from the other side of it. And the irony is many of the black men that black women are complaining about are the very black men that they're going to, a la Derek Jackson, for example. So there was never a counterbalance to that. And I decided to do what I could to kind of provide a counter to all of that.
Okay. Understood. Okay. That makes sense. So, if you don't mind, because there's a nomer, right? It may be a misnomer or a stereotype essentially about the men who started, what you did along with the other brothers essentially.
Yeah.
It's like there's a couple things you may have heard before. He-Man Woman Haters Club, Revenge of the Nerds. They say that you brothers also birthed the incels, the black pill, and etc. What's your story? Obviously deep as you want to, try to articulate it. But what's your story with women? Did you have bad experience as a youngin? Were you a part of the nerd group, the undesirable? And then now is that why you have such a, maybe your outlook is as such? Like, what's your story as it pertains?
Well, I mean, I never saw myself as a nerd. I was never regarded as such.
Okay.
But as far as my experiences with black women are concerned, I don't think that they're anything extreme any more than anybody else. I mean, every black man has had his heart broken. Every black man has been dissed. Every black man has been nuclear rejected and turned up on and all that sort of thing. So I don't think it's so much beyond the norm. I think the difference with me is I was willing to say out loud what a lot of black men already know and thinking. That's the only, that's really the secret sauce with me and the rest of the man, my good friend Kevin. I mean, Kevin would always say that, he never did anything unique or different. This was something that was going on the basketball courts and locker rooms and barbershops for decades. He was just saying what had already been said. He's just saying it openly within earshot of women. Same thing with me. I was just saying what a lot of brothers was, a lot of black men really agree with me. And it's funny because they'll get around women and they'll try to front like, they'll, oh my God, I'm so shocked. But behind closed doors, they actually agree with me. I'm just saying out loud what a lot of black men are already thinking. That's it.
Okay. What do you think the majority of us are thinking?
Well, for example,
regarding our women, and I use the term our women. You can push back on that if you'd like. But what do you think we're saying the crux of the issue? What's the problem with the women we're seemingly attached to? What do you think most of us are thinking?
Well, for example, we try to pretend like we're not interested in them sexually. For example, men go on dates to get sex. That's the primary reason why men go on dates. Men do not go on dates to have stimulating conversations with women. They can do that for free anywhere. Men go on dates to get sex. That if you take sex off the table, very few men, I'm not going to say no men won't do it. And obviously you have some gay guys or whatever, but straight men, very few will want to go pay to take a woman out that they are not related to, or I will grant you the odd, truly platonic friend. But the vast majority of men, when they taking a woman out, it's because they want to have sex with them. That's the reality. A lot of guys try to pretend that that's not true. It's wrong. It's true. Ladies, look at me. Look at me. Ladies looking right now, look at me. When a man is taking you out, it's because he wants to have sex with you. Okay? Understand that. Know that.
Do you think they're obtuse to that fact? I feel, and I'm saying feel, that they know that. Do you think they just play coy?
Yeah, and also a lot of ladies don't want to confront the fact that oftentimes the men that they're sexually attracted to don't have to take them out. All they have to do is just show up and say the word and they're going.
Okay.
So typically the men that take them out are the men that it's arranged. They're either not sexually attracted to at all, or they're kind of on the fence about, and they're trying to, get up the nerve to try to, get there and go there. So that's the problem. And I say all the time, Kevin talked about this. I say all the time, look, If you're not sexually attracted to a guy, don't go out with him. But see, the reality is, if they did that, they wouldn't go out on many days. I won't say they won't go out on any, but they won't go out on many dates. They might only go like maybe once a quarter, 4 times a year, if that, because the vast majority of the men that they really are sexually attracted to know they don't have to take them out.
It's interesting. We had a conversation. Let me get your 2 cents on it, if you don't mind. There was actually 2 women having the conversation. Now, after the woman said what she said, there were words that came out, like the term mammy, after she said it. But she said that women are more predatory in the dating market than men, because women can use men for a plethora of things, where men are pretty much pursuing sex. What's your take on that?
There's a lot of truth to that. Steve Harvey talked about this in his book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. There's a section in the book where he talks about a lot of black women will have, designated men for different things. They'll have the gay male friend. They'll have the old guy who can't really do anything but wants to do something for you. You have another guy that's, cut the grass and watch the kids. And then she'll have the designated man dingo who will give her the
Oh yeah, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Okay. So essentially the slotting of the men. Do you think that women, so you heard the stat before, I'm sure. You probably said it before I heard it, that 80% of men are considered unattractive or unwanted by women?
Yeah.
You think that's true?
Well, we've been saying this in the manosphere for years, and it feels good to finally be vindicated. There's a white guy named Scott Galloway. You might have heard of him, but if not, he's all over YouTube. He's everywhere.
Okay.
Bald white guy, wears glasses. You can't miss him. He's rebranded it from the 80-20 rule to Porsche polygamy, but it's the same thing. On dating apps, and they've done studies on this, women, white, black, or otherwise, are gravitating to a small group of men. So, a lot of people try to, debate us manospherians on this. Well, it's not 20%. Listen, when we say the 80-20 rule, and I want to look in the camera here, when we say the 80-20 rule, what we mean is a term of art, okay? It is not a specific exact number here that we're getting at. What we're getting at is the general idea that in the 21st century, where women have choice unfettered from any social consequences, etc., they will naturally gravitate to a small group of men. We're not saying that's right. We're not saying that's wrong. We're just saying that's what it is. And it's good to see that people like Scott Galloway, who kind of holds himself out as an anti-manospherian, has basically agreed with us. It's interesting, DJ Hamp, and I don't expect you to know this, but on the white side, because I got my start in the white manosphere back in 2009. That's where I got my start. And then in 2015, I left voluntarily. I wasn't ran off. It wasn't racism or anything like that. I voluntarily left to form up what would become known as the black manosphere. Of the past few years, there have been white guys. Scott Galloway is one of them. Richard Reeves is another. Mackin Murphy, Macken, that's his first name, Mackin Murphy. Rob Henderson, William Costello, all of these guys, Chris Williamson, he's here on YouTube. All of these guys have kind of got together and have positioned themselves as kind of like the anti-manosphere, right? And really, and they try to say that what we say about women is not true, but if you really sit down and listen to these guys, they're saying that they agree with us. Their real issue is they just don't like the way we talk about women.
What don't they like exactly?
Actually wrong, though.
What don't they like?
Things. Well, they don't like that we talk about things that are unflattering about women. So, for example, alpha fucks, beta bucks, the dual mating strategy. David Buss has talked about this. Many other noted evolutionary psychologists has talked about this. So a woman will get one man for his genes, sexy son hypothesis, then get another man for his money, for his provisioning, for his caring, and they'll try to combine the two. This goes back to Steve Harvey and Think Like act like a lady, think like a man, that I just talked about a moment ago.
Mhm.
So they don't like that we're saying things that are unflattering about the women, rooted in science, rooted in biology, rooted in evolutionary psychology. They can't deny that what we're saying is true, because if you go back and look at all these people that I mentioned, Mack and Murphy, Rob Henderson, Scott Galloway, Richard Reeves, Chris Williamson, William Costello, they are saying the same things we're saying. They just don't like the fact that we're saying it with regard to women. They try to take that out of it.
Okay. I understand. So they agree with the sentiments. Are they taking exception? It sounds like delivery and the cons that are highlighted, because I essentially is kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah. We
Okay.
don't pull any punches. We don't shy away from the fact that there are some unsavory elements of female mating psychology, or as we like to call female nature. We don't shy away from that. Just like we don't shy away from the fact that there's some very unsavory elements about male nature, male mating psychology. Nobody denies that. Sexual assault, rape, sexual harassment, and all the rest of it. Nobody denies that.
Okay.
But when it comes to the ladies, we're not supposed to talk about the 80-20 rule. We're not supposed to talk about alpha fucks, beta bucks. We're not supposed to talk about foodie calls, or as I call them, dinner whores. That's something else that's been academically studied. I write about it in my first book right here. We're not supposed to talk about any of that. We're supposed to pretend like none of that exists.
Okay. So question. If it's nature, does it change, or are we also teaching men how to navigate it if it's essentially innate to them?
Yeah, I think that's something else that these guys have a problem with the manosphere about, is that we are teaching men how to navigate all of this. So, for example, like I said, in my first book, the book of Obsidian, the manual for the 21st century Black American gentleman, Kevin bigged this up and it became my very first #1 bestseller. I specifically talk about psychological concepts that men need to look out for, such as the dark triad, narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism in women, which Jonathan Haidt, H-A-I-D-T, Jonathan Haidt, J-O-N, Jonathan Haidt of New York University. He teaches at the same college or university that Scott Galloway teaches at. They're both at the Stern School of Business at NYU. He talked about how the dark triad traits are rising in women and females as a result of social media. So the thirst trapping, the booty pictures and the filters and all the rest of it, that is increasing the dark triad traits. And we're seeing along with that a rise in foodie calls. That is the practice of women going out on dates with men that they have absolutely no romantic or sexual interest in, only to get the free food, so to speak.
Okay. Yes, because we actually did a show on the dark triad, and obviously, well, not obviously, but the studies show that it shows up in men far more, but you're seeing a rise in it because of social media. Does dopamine lead to dark triad traits?
The social media definitely leads to a dopamine hit. They've been doing studies on thirst trapping and whatnot, and part of the reason, and to be fair, men do thirst trapping too, to be fair, but it's the majority of it's coming from women. And part of the reason is because of the dopamine hit.
Okay.
I'll give you another example of dopamine hit: dating apps. There are a lot of women that use dating apps that have no intention of going out on dates with men. They just do it because they know that a lot of men use dating apps. On Tinder, I believe it's a 3-to-1 ratio. It's 3 men for every 1 woman. On Tinder, for example. So a lot of women know this, and they go on the dating apps just so they can get the dopamine hit of all these men that want them.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And it's an easy dopamine hit. Right. But this question, just to reiterate, because I may have been unclear, and if the study show this or not, but I'm genuinely asking, does the dopamine hits they get from social media and the dating apps, does that lead to the dark triad? They seem to be opposite ends. Like dark triad traits and then dopamine hits. Would those things correlate?
That's a really good question. I'm not aware of any specific studies on this. That's not to say it doesn't exist. I'm just not aware of it.
Okay.
But just off the cut, and I have to say for the record, I am not an evolutionary psychologist. Sure. I am not an academic. I am a gentleman scholar. That is, I am a man of letters, as you can see here. But I am not a formally trained academic. I am not an evolutionary psychologist. So I have to say that for the record. Now, for my personal opinion, I think it's a little bit of both and. I think you have to kind of already be kind of a little bit, for lack of a better way of putting this, off. And then you have to have the other side of it, the social media piece. And there have been a lot of studies that have been written that social media is really changing the landscape and how people interact with each other. DJ Hamp, did you know that 70% of Americans now meet each other on dating apps?
So we actually did a show, and it showed that younger guys 18 to 25 didn't talk to a woman in person for a year. So
correct. That's correct.
That sounds pretty accurate. See, it's plausible for sure. It makes sense to me.
That's correct. As a matter of fact, that same age group of men under 30, say 18 to 30, haven't had sex in the last calendar year, in the last 12 months.
Now, question is that still relevant now? Because I saw that study, but I know that COVID was a factor in that. Is that still consistent for them even now after C-19?
Yeah, a lot of researchers, Haidt, for example, who I just mentioned earlier, Jonathan Haidt, they theorize that the pandemic has had a major impact on younger people in particular. All of us overall, because all of us were impacted by it, but especially younger people because their formative experiences were shaped by that. So you have a whole generation of younger men who just do not know how to interact with women. And then you got to remember something else too. You had Me Too that happened right before the pandemic jumped off. And right now, as we see right now, you got Smokey Robinson, he's 85. You got Shannon Sharp, he's my age. We both born the same year, 56. So you got, and of course, Sean Puffy Combs. So you got these high profile cases in the media where you don't even have to prove wrongdoing in terms of criminal charges. All you have to do is he did something so-and-so to me and sue them civilly. All of that is having a psychic assault effect on the American male.
So me and my young brothers, we were having that conversation. Like, it is a dangerous landscape, So we definitely, like literally a couple weeks ago, salute to the youngins that I have the, opportunity to talk with regarding the landscape that they have to navigate. 2 questions, as I'm listening, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What impact, the books, the podcasting since 2009, then going on your own in 2014, 15, what has the impact been? Has it been received well? Did the book sell? Like, what are you seeing in terms of that over the course of the last 20 years or so?
The book, for me, the book sales have been phenomenal. That's the reason why I keep writing them, because every year we do a conclave and I sell out. I mean, I went to the last conclave in Houston last year. I took about 15 boxes of books and I had all 3 titles and I sold out all but 4 boxes of books.
Okay.
So it's been, and then we had like just over 400 guys turn out. So that was, it was really good. And that's just in-person sales. That's not including, other sales. That's not including online sales throughout the rest of the year. So it's really phenomenal. I mean, the manosphere won an election. If Donald Trump, I mean, you have to take my word for this. You can look this up on the Wall Street Journal. His youngest son, Barron Trump, was the one that put him onto the manosphere. And Donald Trump appeared on every manosphere. Now, this is on the white side. Every white manosphere podcast of any renown and repute, and including Joe Rogan, and that's what put him over the top. Scott Galloway, who I mentioned earlier, said on Anderson Cooper's 360 on CNN that it was the manosphere election. It was the manosphere that won the election for Donald Trump. Everybody's talking about what we're talking about now. The manosphere has set the social agenda for the country.
Man, so I'm thinking about the point, right? And I like to reconcile things in my head when I hear it. So Andrew T, as an example, there was a movie that came out on Netflix and they used his name profusely going through the different talking points. I don't know if you saw that, but that movie came out 2 or 3 months ago. Adolescence. Yep. So I'm looking at that and I'm like, well, man, if it made it to Netflix to that degree, I think that there's something there for sure.
By the way, for the record, adolescence was thoroughly discredited by William Costello. I mentioned him a little while ago. William Costello is a world-renowned researcher on incels. He's somebody that I mentioned him quite a bit in this book, Toxic Femininity, The Black Man's Guide to Modern Black Feminism. And I'm also working on a book about incels, and he will be referenced early and often in the book. He thoroughly discredited Netflix's adolescence. He thinks it's a bunk.
Okay. All right. Sounds good, man. Make sure y'all hit the like button if you can. That helps the channel the most. Now, let me ask, right? This would be the retort or the devil's advocate to the impact being positive, because what I think a sentiment that is shared often, even by men who have successful women, is that the youngins and men who don't have that uber success have been fear mongered into things like MGTOW, let's get a passport, and etc. And they haven't been helped in a way in which that we would hope. It's that they've been almost made recluse because of everything that they've been taught and been said to them. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that some brothers have been kind of cowed into silence and fear, like we talked about the backlashes of Me Too. By the way, Sheryl Sandberg, who I don't know if she still is to this day, but at one point she was the chief operating officer of Facebook. And she founded a women's advocacy organization called Lean In. She was seen, and you can look this up for yourself, she was seen lamenting how predominantly white male managers and upper level management and whatnot refused to meet with lower level women staff and whatnot. The Mike Pence rule, former vice president of the United States, many white men on Wall Street, Silicon Valley, etc., would institute that rule. That was to say that Mike Pence refused to meet with any woman unless his wife was also present. So many women were bemoaning that they weren't getting the mentoring that they needed. They weren't getting the opportunities for advancement. But what this tells us is that even powerful white men on Wall Street and Silicon Valley didn't want to take the chance of meeting with a woman in their office after office hours, if you will, and being accused of, he looked at me wrong, or he said something I don't like, I don't feel comfortable with that, he tried to do something to me. And that's the backlash there of Me Too. So if that's happening on Wall Street and on Silicon Valley, what is that happen? What is happening on Main Street or on Martin Luther King Boulevard in the hood?
Gotcha. So here's the retort would be, those men don't have anything to take. So the guy on Wall Street has these concerns because he has things to lose. But men are, so essentially, I liken it to the high value man. There were men who were regurgitating those talking points and didn't qualify to even be using those talking points. Right. So the retort would be essentially, you ain't him. There's nothing I need to meet to you about. You don't got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. That would be probably a rebut to that. What you think?
That would be true, but they overlook one thing. And I think that Tony Montana of the excellent film Scarface, portrayed by the great Al Pacino, said it best. All I got in this world are my balls and my word, and I don't break them for nobody. Okay. And a man may not be a high value man, but he's still got his name. And being charged with being a rapist, being charged with being a sexual assault a perpetrator, and so on, being charged with just being a creep, that can ruin your good name.
Okay, yeah, that's something that we certainly need to take hold of and protect wholeheartedly. So I think that is a great response. Now, one question I just have to clarify, because you said some men have been fearmongered. Do you think it's the majority or minority of men that have been fearmongered based on what we're seeing? Right, we're seeing men kind of detached, right? But there's several reasons that make sense. But do you think the majority and the minority of men that have been around for the conversation have been better for it and found better relationships, or have kind of withdrawn? in different ways?
I don't. Again, I'm going to be real careful with this. I am not aware of any studies, particularly with black men.
Yeah, speculation is good.
Any studies on this, but my sense of this is that yes, it's the social media piece, COVID, Me Too, dating apps, all of that kind of created a perfect storm to where we are right now. I think so. Yeah.
Dang. So you think most of us have kind of withdrawn a little bit?
Oh yeah, and the studies bear it out. I mean, it shows it. You know, a lot of the David Scott Galloway, for example, is calling for third spaces. I was like, what the hell is a third space? What it is places where people can go and meet. So the nightclub business and the restaurant business and whatnot was already taking a hit before COVID came along. Then that came along, just knocked it all the way out. David's Bridal, which is one of the biggest companies in the country for weddings and stuff like that for women in particular, they went in the tank. So I mean, it's really been taking it on the chin.
Man, what would you say? And I know this is almost an unfair question. What do you say is the number one factor for this phenomenon? Like the number, I know they all are factor, right? Yeah, it's like you said, a perfect storm. But what's number one, would you say?
Number one. Wow.
Like I said, I know it's kind of like, but what would be number one?
If you took COVID out of the picture,
you
took the pandemic out, it was like 2 years, 2.5 years. If you took that out of the picture and we didn't have that, then you could make a case that it still would have happened, but it would have been at a much slower rate. So you're looking at maybe all of this finally coming to a head, maybe now. Maybe 26. It would have delayed it a few years.
Gotcha.
But COVID is what really accelerated it.
Okay, I understand. I catch your drift because it's hard to almost remove it, right? Because it all happens so much. That's why I said it was unfair. Because even to try to parse it, if a perfect storm, that means everything's happening at the same time. It's hard to kind of delineate. So I think that's fair. Now, here's the thing, right? So So stereotypically, what the women go for, I wouldn't be in that realm. I think I'm probably a 4. I lose another 20 pounds. Back when I was in college, I'd probably be a 5. But I speak well. I got straight teeth, things of that nature. So I can be bumped up based on charisma, but I don't fit the standards. I'm not 6 feet. I don't have a 6-pack. I think we do well, like monetarily.
Right.
And so here's one of the other things. It's men who don't have that stereotypical look that the women desire. That's doing all the talking and the complaining and saying how women ain't shit and be mad about their attitudes. It's because we ain't getting the results. So we got to put it on them as opposed to just admitting that maybe we ain't desirable.
Right.
What you think of that?
Well, there is scientific evidence that proves that since 1930, so almost a century now, the importance of physical looks for both men and women has been rising. So 1930 was the rise of Hollywood. You had talkie films. In the 1910s, 1920s, you had silent films. And then, in the 1930s moving forward, you started having what they call talkies or movies with sound. And then it went from black and white to color. And, Hollywood was really big, Paramount, Metro Golden Mayer, MGM, and so on. In the 21st century, Hollywood has kind of been taking a back seat to social media. So Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and so on has now become the coin of the realm. And looks have gone really off the chain. Now you have centers around the world, like South Korea, for example, is one of the leading centers of cosmetic surgery procedures for both men and women. Istanbul, Turkey is another major location. You have locations throughout South America, Latin America, and Mexico, and Dominican Republic, and in Brazil. They even have a phrase for it, the Brazilian butt lift, and BBL and all that sort of thing. So all of these are examples of looks being very important with regard to male looks. Studies have shown that body dysmorphia has skyrocketed among males.
Okay.
So hitting the gym and all that sort of thing. You're starting to see the male version of bulimia. which is something that was mainly, relegated to women. You're starting to see that happen with men in terms of starving themselves, dehydrating themselves, also using, performance enhancers like steroids and so on and so forth. All of that has really skyrocketed in recent years.
Yeah, no, 100%. So what do you think? Do you think though that it is men who don't have the stereotypical desirable traits? And don't get me wrong, I think that men who aren't stereotypically preferred in terms of the archetype can't have success,
Oh, absolutely it is. Is that
but
definitely driven
but I
by
guess just to reiterate, because I just want to make sure I'm clear. But it's said that the men who got all the complaints is because they don't fit that archetype that the sentiment is that women want. What do you think about that?
I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I don't think that it should come as any great shock or surprise. In the Black community, you have colorism, which has been around since the early 1980s. Alice Walker, who was behind The Color Purple, came up with the phrase colorism early, I think 1981, in a book called Our Mother's Garden, I think it's called, In Our Mother's Garden, and 1981. And a lot of women, including Black, have been complaining about impossible beauty standards, body positivity, fat shaming, and so on. So in a lot of ways, what we're seeing now with the incel movements, the Black pill movements, and so forth, you're kind of seeing the male equivalent of body positivity, fat shaming, colorism.
Yeah. Damn. Okay. Do you think? Let me ask you this question, because this always pops up. Okay, so I understand that. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most. Salute to everybody who is in the building. Let me ask you a couple questions, things that we constantly discuss, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Are men the leaders?
I like to think so. I am a staunch advocate for patriarchy. I have no interest in wanting to ape a white guy. When I think patriarchy, I think of myself as a Black man and other Black men. But the reality is that in the Black community, and there have been people that have been studying this going back a century. Here I'm thinking of E. Franklin Frazier, the great sociologist, Black male sociologist, and others. Black America has been a de facto matriarchy for at least a century. Many would go back further, all the way back to the days of chattel slavery. So I think the issue is Black men's ability to be leaders have been hampered and hobbled by racism, white supremacy, by slavery, by Jim Crow. And on top of that, having to contend with a lot of Black women who are kind of mixed up between their own innate desire for leadership and hypergamous mating, and also dealing with the aforementioned chattel slavery, Jim Crowism, and also being put as a kind of buffer class between Black men and white people.
Okay. I want to kind of let the answers live, question. Is dick discipline the answer?
Definitely. Black men definitely, and not only is dick discipline the answer, but let me say this, going back to the 80-20 rule, there have always been a small group of Black men, a minority, who are the ones cutting up. So for example, Black men do have a infidelity problem. I talk about that in this book right here.
Okay.
The book of Obsidian, the ladies edition. I talk about it in chapter 2, I believe, and I'm very candid about Black men having a cheating problem. Here's the thing, though. Only 30% of Black men have admitted to cheating on their wives. So that leaves another 72%. I think it's like 28%. So that leaves another 72% of Black men who don't cheat on their wives. Similarly, so you see the Nick Cannons, the Cam Newtons, the Futures, and so on and so forth. They got all these kids. Sean Kemp back in the day. Yes, they exist, but they're a very small group of Black men.
Okay.
what we end up doing is focusing on the very small group and not focusing on the majority. The single biggest group of men in the country that consistently uses condoms are black men. Did you know that?
Yeah, I've been edified on that before by my brother, Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah. So we always focus on the group.
I didn't believe him though, Obsidian.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of black women don't believe this. Like a lot of black women still don't refuse to believe that black men are the best dads of all. CDC talked about this, Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, New York Times, Pew Research Center, U.S. Census. But black women still refuse to believe that as a collective group, black dads are still the best dads of all. That's because of this small group of black men who ain't shit. And they continue to represent all of us, which is another reason why I got into the black manosphere business, because I got tired of being defined by that small group of black men who ain't shit.
Indeed. Okay. Now, question. See, I'm glad you. So now, what that study, right? Black men are the best fathers. We've been hearing that. They said it was a self-reported study. In that it doesn't actually have as much merit, or sorry, not a study, but a survey. But what I had, sorry, I lost my train of thought. But then when we looked into it, it showed that the women filled it out and said that those men were the best dads. Have you ever looked into it thoroughly? Like,
I have, and it is interesting that the ladies themselves say that black men are the best dads of all. So what are we going to do now? Are we going to say that those women are telling a lie too?
Is that a new one?
Well, the simple truth of the matter is, in Black America, you have a very noisy contingent of black women who are themselves butthurt. In this book, so we want to talk about guys who don't make the cut and are kind of aggrieved and mad. They're nothing new. Black women have been doing this in the form of black. What do you think black feminism is? Black feminism is just a whole bunch of disgruntled women who couldn't get the men that they want.
Damn.
And I talk about it very, very candidly in the book. As a matter of fact, I make the case in Toxic Femininity, the Black Man's Guide to Modern Black Feminism, that the incel movement is just like the modern black feminist movement. There's no real difference between the two.
So those pot and kettle over there.
Yeah.
Damn. Interesting. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most. You heard this one? They used a study. I think it was OkCupid. Said Asian men and black women were deemed the most undesirable. We parsed through that study. Essentially, OkCupid has the majority of white people on it. So when they polled it, it's white men and women essentially saying, I don't like these two groups. Do you think that be true for black women? Do you think that they are considered the most undesirable, or do you think that's a misnomer?
Among black women, yes. I'm not trying to be as objective as possible. There's a really good book. I don't know if you're familiar with it, and I could go over there and find it. But in any event, it's a really good book called The Dating Divide.
Okay.
Came out in 2021, same year that my very first book came out.
Okay.
And they say the same thing. I mean, these are, reputable researchers. They're not red pill Reddit or anything like that. Okay. And the book itself was published by the University of California Press, 2021. And they say the same thing, that black women come at or near dead last in desirability among the various groups of women in the country. The same thing is true on the other side with regard to Asian males. And you would think that those two groups would get together, because when on the off chance that they do get together, their marriages are the most enduring of all, is black women and Asian men.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay. I did not know that. Okay. I did not know that. Do you think, in terms of our relations, we look like divorce and marriage? It looks like we're married at about 32%. Black women are married at, was it 26% or so? Our divorce rate is upwards of, 70% in our community?
Black women file for divorce at a rate of 80% more than any other group of women in the country. Overall, American women file for divorce at around 70%. For Black women, it's 10 points higher. The average marriage in the United States for all Americans is about 8 years. For Black Americans, it's 5 years. The number one reason for divorce or cause for divorce in Black America is money. Money.
Do you agree?
Yeah, because I'm looking at all the statistics. I'm looking at all the data. And one thing I tell the brothers at the conclave, there are two things you can do to keep your marriage if you want to get married. And for the record, I'm a confirmed bachelor and avowed hedonist. So, I have no interest in getting married whatsoever. But for the brothers that do, if you want to keep your marriage solvent, if you want to keep it going, there are two things you can do. You can't stop what your wife is going to do, but there are two things that you can do. One is keep your money up. Two is keep your dick in your pants.
Shit like that. Shit like that. Shit like that.
So you think? So do you? Okay. So you think money is the catalyst? What about the women's conduct? You think money's still the basic reason? Because here's what we discussed. I'm doing a bad job of framing my question. Here's what we discussed essentially: that the women, as soon as they're not happy, they get gone.
Oh yeah.
They're not there for the long run, the duty and the responsibility. It's predicated on how they feel. And as soon as they don't feel the right way, they leave.
Oh yeah.
While men are dedicated to it. And now the dick in the pants thing, we discussed that too, where we speculated that I always say this thing. So they're filing at 70%, right?
Black women 80%.
80%. So I have 5 daughters, 1 son. He never tells on anybody, Mr. Ali, right? Never. You know why? Because he always the one doing something. Right? So now I liken that to, well, are they divorcing because you see something has happened to them? I kind of use that analogy. So what do you think? Like, what's your process as you just break it down in speculation? So
I think that number one, women in general, this is not just Black women, just women overall, are more neurotic. They worry more. They have more anxiety. They have more fears. They get scared more than men do. Okay. So that's number one. So, and number two, they file for divorce more than men do. So you put the two together, and women, in this case, Black, are much more prone to divorcing. So again, if you're a Black man and you want to marry and you want your marriage to not break up, then you're going to have to really, keep that money up, and you're going to have to really have extreme discipline. Personally, in my own personal opinion, if you're a brother that's successful, Paul Pierce, NBA All-Star and Hall of Famer, recently said this. If you're a brother and you got anything going for you, you're a brother, you're making strong 6 figures. I dare say you're not even a millionaire yourself. There's no real reason for you to get married now. I mean, you can get all the things that you can get from a woman or women without ever getting married. But if you're a brother that, you have religious convictions or what have you, and you want to just do that, understand what you're getting yourself in for. At the conclave last year, I gave my scared straight speech. There used to be a thing when I was growing up. You probably remember this, scared straight. You ever see this?
Yes, sir.
Scared straight with the prisoners. So I gave my marital get scared straight speech to the brothers last year. And I told them, if you're looking to get married in the United States today, it's going to cost you $500,000 just to get started. Price of a new house. Let's just look at the numbers. Let's start with the wedding ring. The average price of a wedding ring as of last year, 2024, $5,500. That would be for a carat and a half.
Carat, yeah.
Average price for a honeymoon, $5,300. Average price for a wedding, if you don't have a wedding planner and you do it yourself, $35,000 in country. If you have a wedding planner to get a nice wedding, not balling out of control, just a nice, respectable wedding, $60,000. If you do it outside of the country and you do it yourself, $55,000. If you get a wedding planner, about $80,000. Average price for a new house. Men typically buy homes when they have wives and children. The average new housing price in the United States per Forbes magazine, $409,000. So just those numbers alone, you're looking at the better part of 450, 500 grand.
Damn. Okay. Those numbers are quantifiable for sure. That all makes 100% sense to me.
Yes.
Obviously people may retort with, oh, you can go to the courthouse, right? But that's not what people want what they
Most
want.
women are not no, now I'm not saying that no women will do it.
Sure.
I'm sure there's some sisters out there who will do that. But by and large, most black women expect a nice church wedding with all the trimmings. That's
Indeed.
what they expect with the reception and a nice cake. And she wants the white dress with the train on it and all her bridesmaids and this and that, and the photographers and all the liquor and so on and so forth. That's what they expect.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the reason why I can see it clearly is the places in which I live, they're mid-Atlantic to northern houses, in Washington, D.C. at the very least for something feasible is 500,000 easy, So I have that perspective. That's why those numbers kind of just make a whole lot of sense, coming from that area. Now, I just want to rewind a little bit because it was kind of more of a speculative question. Do you think the women are leaving for good reason?
Well, I mean, in the United States, any reason is a good reason.
No, 100%. I understand no fault, but do you think?
Of course, I think that Ronald Reagan, I think that was the single biggest mistake he ever made was when he was governor of California, putting that into place. And then, they say as California goes, so the rest of the country, so that became the law of the land eventually, all over the country. As long as that's the case, any reason will be a good reason.
No, indeed.
Roll it back. My own personal opinion, we need to roll that back. You have to prove that he beat you up, or for that matter, she beat you up. You have to prove that he messed up the money, whatever. In my opinion, we need to roll that back and bring back divorce for good reason. You got to prove that there's a good reason why you got a divorce, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I guess when I reconcile a couple things that we discussed this evening, right? If we saying that we have to do a better job with like dick discipline as an example, I mean, it is 30% that admitted to cheating, but then we have a 80% initiation. If I were to reconcile these things, are the women leaving because men have unbecoming behavior, or are they leaving because they're unhappy? What you think?
Well, I mean, there is that. There is the infidelity. The infidelity is number two. For the single biggest reason that black marriages and divorce, infidelity is a major factor. That being said, and this is what a lot of ladies don't want to admit, that 25% of black women have admitted to cheating on their husbands. And that the number one reason for cheating on their husbands is sexual variety.
Damn.
Number one reason. Number two reason is revenge. In other words, the husband cheated on her, so she cheated to get back on him. But the number one reason is sexual variety.
When they cheat.
Women really like that.
Oh yeah, motherfucker.
Okay, so if you say, all right, so last time, I just want to make sure I parse this all the way out with this opportunity. 80% initiations. Out of that 80%, you really think he fucked up, or she leaving because her feelings are fleeting and she basing it on feelings why she don't want to be there?
It's really hard to parse out because, again, as long as we got no fault divorce, they can always put down irreconcilable differences, and that can mean anything. Whereas what I'm talking about, where you have to cite cause and you have to prove it, then for certain why they got divorced. But we never really can know for certain with that no fault divorce piece. We can try to parse it out to a certain degree, but we can never really know for certain.
Okay, so if someone said essentially they're initiating 80%, because out of that 80%, 60% of the time the nigga had did something that she didn't like or prefer, would you give that merit?
I wouldn't personally. Just because your wife or your husband or whatever did something that day you don't like, it doesn't mean good reason.
Well, like cheated or something. Sorry.
But cheating is by definition cheating. Yeah, you're basically giving your wife the nuclear launch codes to basically take half your shit if you cheat on her. So that's the reason why I say to guys, if you're going to do that, you got to really. I mean, my own personal opinion, I'm no way I'm marrying one woman because I can't. I mean, it's too much yams out here. I can't guarantee that I'm going to never partake of the yams. What the hell?
Okay. So in our relationships, do you blame women for us being the least married, our kids out of wedlock? You know, we lead in all these negative stats. Do you think women are the main catalyst to why we have so many problems in our relationships?
I do. Black women, I just talked about this on Rumble earlier this evening. Between 1973 and the year 2022, black women got almost 20 million abortions, more than any other group of women in the country, by far.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I mean, just that number alone is shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Almost 20 million, 19 million to be exact.
Okay.
49 years.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
The Ku Klux Klan could never match those numbers.
Indeed.
Never.
Now, so you're saying that is insight into their modus operandi or conduct, essentially?
It is. Because I mean, look, I mean, if you want to talk about the single biggest threat to the black nation, it's not the Ku Klux Klan, it's not Donald Trump, it's black women and Planned Parenthood.
We've talked about that slightly ad nauseum. Now, one thing, it was on a panel, I could send you the clip. It was a couple brothers who are definitely influential in regards to the manosphere. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it and we said that, you know, we concluded that men are complicit in a lot of these baby deletions, abortions. As a matter of fact, Angry Man was riding in his car and he kind of like, you know what I mean, acknowledged it. But, you know, do you think our conclusion was fair?
It is, because most black men, I'm going to be clear about this. Okay. Most black men who vote. So I want to be clear about this. So I'm not saying all black men, because all black men don't vote, but of those black men who vote, 78% in the last elections last year voted Democrat. See, I'm a proud black Republican. I voted for Trump 3 times. I'm proud of it. And if he could run again, I'd do it again. But of course, he can't do it again. But I voted for him. And my personal view is that I don't think that we should be aborting the future of Black America. Mm-hmm. I don't think we should be throwing the black babies into the trash can, so to speak. That's my position. But many black men who voted, 78% of them vote Democrat. So I must conclude, therefore, that they are in favor of black women aborting nearly 20 million black babies in 49 years.
You're saying by proxy of how you voting, you for those things. So therefore, you are complicit to a degree. That seemed like a fair conclusion to me. Yeah. Damn. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most. Obsidian, we've been rolling for an hour, but I have 2 things I have to explore. Do you got a little bit more time?
Well, go ahead, man. Go ahead. I'm here for the duration. Go right ahead.
Okay, so toxic femininity.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard toxic masculinity till I was blue in the face.
Yeah.
And we discussed it on a panel. I don't know if I had the right people, but what it was men that had maybe a traditional outlook, in my estimation, were being called toxic.
Right.
You know, now the toxic femininity, you know, I'm sure it's been said before, but the book has the title. So for the people who have not read it, what's the summary? What's the takeaway? Not to spoil it, but can you break down toxic femininity as you see it?
Yeah. Toxic femininity, I specifically make clear in the book. I am specifically addressing what I refer to as modern black feminism. So I am not talking about black women. I'm talking about modern black feminism, which is an ideology that was created by a small but noisy and influential group of black women and then carried over into the 21st century and the social media age. That's what I'm talking about in the book, and how that corrosive ideology has really screwed up Black America writ large.
Damn. How does one navigate? Like, how do you navigate this?
Well, that's the reason why I wrote the book. I mean, I borrowed I borrowed the subtitle from the classic, The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman. As a matter of fact, I say in my book, I dedicated to Sister Shahrazad Ali. I consider her a mother of the Black manosphere. She really informed my thinking on all these issues, and I dedicate the book to her, and I nod to her in the subtitle of the book. And this book is written, it's 470 pages, 472 pages in print. You can see it's a really thick book, 45 chapters. I wrote it in 9 months flat, and it's designed to arm the Black man and give him the tools and the information to be able to navigate this ruinous, noxious, poisonous ideology known as modern Black feminism.
Damn. Let me make sure I get the Rumble and then the link to the book. I got it over there too. And I'll make sure I pin it and put it in the description as well, so people can explore and buy. Matter of fact, I need to get the link now before we wrap. I just want to make sure it's there. What talking point should have died in 2024?
What? Say that again, please.
What talking point should have died in 2024?
The idea that Black men are not emotionally intelligent. We should need to bury that.
Why?
And the reason why is because, now let me be clear here. I'm a big advocate for Black male mental health. There was an incident that happened a few years back. You might have heard of her. Are you familiar with the name Shabri Rawls?
No, I don't know.
She was a TikTok therapist
thing about those
who acted in a manner unbecoming a professional in the mental health field. She wound up being terminated from her job for her unprofessional manner. And I was so taken aback by it that I resolved to every year ever since, and that was 2022, I believe, every year ever since, so for 23 moving forward, that we would have at least 2 licensed professional Black male mental health therapists who specialize in Black men. I don't believe in Black men going to Black women or any woman to be a therapist. I don't believe in that. I believe that Black men should turn to other Black men who are trained and licensed and insured therapists. They're not just hanging out a shingle on YouTube somewhere. They're the real deal, and they can talk about their issues in privacy and dignity. We have that policy at the Black Manosphere Conclave, and I'm very happy to report that many men have done just that and have gotten a greater perspective on their own challenges and things of that nature, and they can do so in privacy and dignity. And many Black women have taken to therapeutic language, DJ Hamp.
Okay.
You may have noticed this. Every man is a narcissist now. Love bombing. You hear that all the time. What's the other one? And this nonsense about emotional intelligence. And then what I have found, DJ Hamp, is that the loudest voices of the lovely ladies who say this are themselves anything but emotionally intelligent. Many of them are profane. Many of them are socially awkward. Many of them are disagreeable with a capital D. And how dare they attempt to use therapeutic language as a cudgel to beat Black men over the head with when they themselves need to get on some therapist couch somewhere and work something out.
Man, so you think it's the language is just strictly shaming language?
Oh, absolutely. It's sign language all day. Shout out to St. Kevin. He was right. It's sign language, shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right, which I outline in the book, Toxic Femininity, The Black Man's Guide to Modern Black Feminism. There is a full glossary in the back of the book, which will arm the Black man in how to deal with these modern Black feminists.
Damn. Okay, I understand that point. Yeah, it's like shaming language, therapeutic language being weaponized by hypocrites, essentially.
Yeah.
In your sentiment.
Yeah.
Because we all, right, not all, but a lot of people need to be on somebody's couch based on your sentiment, and they're not doing it, but they telling him how much he need to do it.
Well, Kevin used to have women on his show. He even had women on his show who themselves were mental health professionals who refused to go to a mental health professional. You can go back and watch the shows for yourself right here on YouTube.
Interesting. Like, share, subscribe, tell a friend and tell a friend. Hit that like button right now if you can. That helps the channel the most. Obsidian, salute, man. This
Shit like that.
Now, let me I'm gonna go through. We have a couple of super chats. I'm gonna read them and then check the back chat when you get a chance. And just let me know yay or nay. HQ with the $5 says, I thought Obsidian. Gabe A with the $5 says, why y'all keep saying that? Like y'all trying to, y'all agendas are very odd to me, right? Like for instance, HQ, you have my phone number, you know? And one with the $2 says, shout out to the GOAT Obsidian. TJ was popping. With the $10 says, the best interviewer and the best interviewee, ellipsis. Salute to Obsidian and DJ Hamp, the Stampede. My OG TJ in a building. What's popping? Hold on one second. No. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna clarify. I put another message. I was unclear. Mr. Fantastic, what's popping? Mr. Fantastic in the building with the $20 says, respect to the old man. Ezekiel bin Israel with the $5 says, hit the like button. Indeed. Gabe with the $5 says, Obsidian is writing a book about incels. Great way to put on a no-fly list. Very on brand. I don't understand it. You want to respond to this?
I'm looking forward to it. There was a, it was because, we of a policy with regard to the Black Manosphere Conclave. We don't allow women during business hours. Women are not allowed. That's not to say that women can't attend. They can. They just have to do it under certain conditions. One of those conditions is being fit, feminine, and friendly. Another one of those conditions is not being able to attend the proceedings during business hours. Once the business of the day has concluded around 5, 6 in the evening, the ladies are welcome to join us for socializing and so on and so forth. We found, DJ Hamp, many people in American society want male and female to get together, going to school, going to work, so on and so forth, and act as if they're not different. Male and female are supposed to copulate. That's a feature, not a bug. How do you expect male and female to be at work all day long or at school all day long and not have sexual feelings for each other? Where does that work anywhere else in nature, in God's creation? Where male and female just hang around all day long and they don't do anything. So that's the reason why we instituted that rule. But once again, thanks to modern Black feminism, you got some angry Black women that have been infected with that mind poison who says, well, we should be able to go to your conclave and all the rest of it, and we're going to charge you with discrimination against Black women, and we're going to tell the FBI on you, and we're going to have them come to your conclave. And this is what we say to the FBI and the Department of Justice. Kash Patel, he has an open invitation to join us in Miami. He is the newly minted director of the FBI. He is a man of color. He is a brother from another mother. We invite Kash Patel and the FBI to come on down and check us out at the Black Manosphere Conclave because we have nothing to hide. They can come on with it.
Indeed. Joey A5 was popping with the $5. Says, oh man, why O'Shea say you want to respond to this? You see it?
Right. So let me see. And get mad at Cass for not letting you join the 6 Feet 6 Figures Club. Okay. So with regard to O'Shea Duke Jackson, what I would simply say is if he had any business with me, he knows how to reach me. He's got my number. He's got my email address. It's not changed. If he has any business, he could have contacted me directly. That's number one. Number two, with regard to Kevin Samuels, he endorsed my book. We met in Atlanta in 2021, and he wanted to be there for the conclave of 22, but unfortunately, he passed away before that could happen. I will say this before we go to the next super chat, that the last conversation that Kevin and I had, we used to talk every day, DJ Hamp, for like almost 3 years, almost every day he would call me. He would always call me. From 2020, from the spring of 2020 to the spring of 2022, he would call me. We would talk anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekend. The last time we spoke was on Easter Sunday 2022, and it was that day that I pitched him for an idea for a book. And he gave it his blessing, and that was the last time we talked before he died. He died May 5th, 2022. And I had writer's block for like 2-3 years until the conclave of last year in Houston. So it was 2 years, almost 2.5 years. And when I got back home from Houston, that's when it's kind of like a cloud just lifted over my head, and I was able to sit down and write the book. So I'm very happy to report. And you've seen the title page to the book. So I'll go ahead and put the title out there now. I've finally written the book that me and Kevin talked about. It's called The Gospel of St. Kevin Samuels, as told by MUMIA Obsidian Ali. It will be out in time for the conclave. Conclave Brothers will be getting a special edition. I don't want to go into it right here, but it's going to be really nice. A special edition, 26 chapters, 418 pages in print, 75 pages of endnotes alone, specifically dealing with what Kevin actually did on YouTube. You can go directly back to the videos in question and look at it yourself. It's going to be really great. And then we're going to have a paperback edition available for the general public about a month or so after the conclave.
Indeed. Gabe A with the $5 says, imagine living 50 plus years of life, and out of all important subjects in the world, you've chosen to memorize relationship stats. Imagine that.
Yeah. I mean, who knew, right? I mean, if you would have told me 15 years ago, I retired February 9th, 2009. I was a skilled tradesman for 22 years. I worked in a heavily industrialized environment. I was a machinist, machine operator, heavy industrial machine operator, cryogenic machine operator, worked in the cold a lot. And I was an industrial mechanic. And I experienced a bad career-ending accident on February 9th, 2009. And I then went from there to a year and a half of very painful, excruciating physical therapy. I also had to deal with, court proceedings regarding, compensation and so on and so forth. So if you would have been a Martian coming from the future, DJ Hamp, and you would have came back in time from 2025 back to 2009, said, Mumia, you are going through some difficult situations right now, and your 22-year career right out of high school will come to an unceremonious end. But 15 years from now, you will be a 3 to 5 time best-selling author. You will have founded or helped to create what's known as the Black Manosphere and the Black Manosphere Conclave. And you will be sitting up here with august people such as DJ Hamp, talking to over 400 people on a Wednesday night, and being one of the leading lights in a movement for Black men to achieve and chase excellence. I would have told you that you was crazy and to give me some of what you were smoking. Okay? If you'd have told me that 15 years ago, I have no idea that I would be doing what I'm doing right now. And that's the reason why I have such an optimistic view of life, because I know firsthand. There's definitely, and I rarely say this, but I'm going to do it now. There is a God out there. I know firsthand that there is, because there's just no way I would have been able to do the things that I've done without it, without that God force, if you will. So let me go ahead and do this. Yeah, definitely.
Gabe A with the $10 says, what happened to so you had a relationship apparently? Are you still in it? I guess what they trying to ask. I guess trying to reconcile this with the Yams comment.
She's doing just fine, and she doesn't have any problems with street yams.
Young Jay with the 2000s. Can Obsidian yell cuts one time, please?
Yeah, I can, but I don't have my echo box yet. We're gonna have that worked all out, but I can say cuts. Yeah, definitely. But there's definitely been some cuts with Donald J. Trump. He's cutting a lot of stuff back, and I say it's long overdue. Cut.
Miss Valerie Smith, she always making sure we're doing fine. That this might be risky. Thank you, Miss Val, in the building. Make sure y'all say what's up to Miss Val in the chat.
Shit like that.
She always positive. Whatever she says, she put the hearts behind it. I think she actually gives genuine commentary and inquiries. Thank you, Miss Valerie Smith. I don't understand this one right here. I don't like this one right here. Li, what's going on? Li with the 50 ball. Salute. Is there any? I would assume it's a I guess he asking is the family involved in the book and
They are,
etc.
They are. Yes, they are. Miss Beverly Samuels, Kevin Samuels' mother, gave it her blessing when I got started on it last fall, and his daughter, which is an executor of his estate. I sent her the manuscript when I finished it in mid-December of last year.
Okay. Allah, salute. I think that's a good clarifying question. I think that's stuff that people often wonder. So good question.
And when I'm feeling broke, E and J by my side, Henny like $40. This shit like 25.
Perfect. We have another. My brother Aaron with the $5 says, if black people quit feminism and the manosphere and got into healthy relationships, would you be happy with that?
I would. I always said, the best way to put us out of business is black women stop doing dumb shit. If black women stop doing dumb shit, I would have nothing to talk about. What, I'm gonna talk about Asian female fuckery? I mean, what, Jewish female fuckery? No. If black women stop doing dumb stuff, I'd be going out of business. They wouldn't have to go, wouldn't run me off of YouTube or try to run Kevin off of YouTube or do change.org petitions. All black women have to do is just act right. The black manosphere goes away.
Damn. That's an answer. I'm not sure what this means. Salute the red and black with the $2. He sent a tooth. I don't know what that means. Ezekiel Ben Israel with the $10 says HAMP. Really? So this one of my bros, he sent like you got the membership thing.
Yeah.
So he must have hit his quota, man. So salute. Man, let me see. What you think? Did you want me to hold on? Hey, check the back chat real quick, Obsidian.
Yeah. Let's see. For people to come up like a panel, sure. We can have a panel discussion, sure.
All right, we ain't stay here all day. I think we got about 30 minutes. I'm gonna drop this link. We see who would like to come up and join. Obviously, this might be risky. You have to be on camera. Perfect. A lot of chitter chatter in the chat, which is okay.
I'll be right back. Let me just go and reload. I'll be right back.
You did.
We're going to do this again to be continued. Thank you so much.
Indeed. Like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And we out.